from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, we're taking your calls in a little bit. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Tonight, I want to get into a few things. We're going to give you a little bit of analysis and reaction to the number 2 man at the FBI, who's now the number 1 guy. He's the acting director because Kimberly Cheadle resigned, and this guy should probably resign too. We're going to get into a little bit of what happened in his testimony before the Senate earlier today. I also want to get into some of the things that are affecting people. You've got people that are losing it on the road. Road rage is still there. And in the same way as people dealing with mental health issues like road rage and other things, there's also people that are still dealing with the PTSD of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And Google is trying to help them by censoring that search term. If you put in attempted assassination Trump, at least as of yesterday, they were sending it to everybody else's attempted assassination but Trump's. Obviously, an attempt to sway the election, to limit the information that you get. Unbelievable. Speaking of limiting information, I'm seeing videos from last night to today, more and more videos of kind of like state police or federal police in Venezuela that are removing their shirts, their uniforms, because they refuse to fire on and arrest their compatriots for protesting the election that sources are now saying is 70 or 73% win for the opposition party. And of course, Nicolas Maduro continues to say that he won it fair and square. Now, this, of course, is problematic. And, lots of people are looking at it different ways. They're not sure how they resolve this, which direction it goes. But it's fascinating to see, is this a deep state coup from those in America or some other foreign intelligence agency that are trying to change Maduro for one reason or another to somebody that's more amenable to what they want? Or is this truly organically coming from the people? Is it a repeat of the Arab Spring, Maidan Square, the toppling of the Saddam Hussein statue in Iraq? I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I wish I could have no proof. It's nothing but speculation. But it just looks too eerily familiar to me. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. I also want to discuss... What else did I want to discuss? Oh, well, Democrats are continually doing things that make everybody scratch their head. Now they're weakening a law, a bill that would go against child prosecution... the prosecution of child prostitutes, right? Or people engaging in child prostitution. And they're doing this because of pressure from the gay community, the LGBTQ movement. And this leads me to a question I want to ask, which I guess will be our theme for tonight overall. Why are any of us conservatives? Why? I know my story. I was a young American of Puerto Rican descent, born in Brooklyn, raised in Hudson County, New Jersey, opened up a barbershop very young after developing a little bit of a clientele I built up in my house. And while I was still a senior in high school, my brother believed in me, loaned me some money. We opened up this barbershop, and I did that for a while. So I became a young business owner, and ultimately I realized that I was in business with the government. This was problematic for me. I didn't want to give 20, 30, 34% to this silent partner called Uncle Sam. Just didn't want to do it. Still don't want to do it. I don't think anybody wants to do it. They're kind of forced to do it. And this was the catalyst for me. But there's more, right? You look at what happened with the Olympics. Jesus has always been a big thing for many Hispanics. I'm no different. You look at the pro-life movement. Again, that's a very big deal for a lot of Hispanic families to be large, to have a lot of kids. And, you put all that together and you say, hey, what do we got here? How does one reconcile coming from a large Hispanic family that is, for most intent and most purpose, pro-life? One is a business owner that doesn't want to pay these taxes, doesn't want to be in business with the government. And you just believe in a lot of traditional gender roles. Machismo is a thing. So how does this happen? If all of that, if Hispanics, at least for me, by default, tend to trend conservative, that's my story. How do we get to where we are? Well, it's the same way that you've got people that a week ago, Democrats, that were saying, you know what? I'm going to vote for Trump because I think it's messed up that they took a shot at this guy and tried to kill him. To now going, you know what? I think he did it on his own. It was an inside job. He staged the whole thing to get sympathy votes. And honestly, things are looking good with Kamala. I don't know. It's getting tight. It's getting really tight out there. There's a lot of polls coming out. I don't know. Isn't it amazing how one's opinion can shift by just watching a little CNN, just watching a little bit of MSNBC? A little bit, just a little bit, not a lot. One or two shows, and voila. Maybe you glance at the Drudge Report, and that's it. It's a done deal. Everything has changed. The reality is no longer the reality. What's up is down. What's down is up. What's black is white. What's white is black. Everything is just the inverse of what it was. Crazy. But why are any of us conservatives? Is it because we favor large government? Is it because we don't want individual responsibility? Do you think most of us truly embrace DEI? Do you think most of us embrace this oppressor versus oppressed narrative? I don't think so. I think most Americans would err on the side of conservatism. I think most Americans don't want their child to go to school and come home being the opposite sex of what they sent them to school as. I think most people want a country with a border that's secure. I think most people may not like conservatives per se, but they like what conservatives stand for. And they can relate with that message. And I think that's why, just a couple of reasons why many of us are conservative. But ultimately, will the Democrats succeed in running a campaign against Orange Man Bad, in running a campaign against J.D. Vance for being quote unquote weird? I'm weird too. Like I said, an American of Puerto Rican descent, born in Brooklyn. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not even 50 years old, not even 47 years old. I like Trump. I liked Reagan. My politics don't match a lot of my contemporaries, but yet they do. I bump into my contemporaries all the time. And they tell me, I like what you're talking about. I agree with what you're saying. You're right. You say what I'm thinking. So then, how do we get there? Again, the same way. The media has massive influence. And this media includes entertainment, sports. So many people are quote unquote influencers today. They influence our children. They influence us. If we put our focus in the wrong place, we will be led astray by the nose. So we're going to continue our conversation on that and so much more tonight. Again, your calls are coming up, 833-482-5337. But that is the overarching theme. Why are any of us conservatives? Folks, don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdez coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation. And again, while we ponder the idea, why are any of us conservatives? I want to know why we have such deep state shills, bureaucrats that exist for the sake of bureaucracy in Washington, people who refuse to take accountability for anything. And again, the reason I get a little perturbed by this is because I once worked in a bureaucracy. I worked in the state government of the state of New Jersey. I was appointed by then Governor Chris Christie, who, by every standard in New Jersey, was way more conservative than any of the leftist bureaucrats. And many of us know the opinion that everybody has of Governor Christie. So just imagine what I was dealing with these Dems. But the reality is they exist for their own benefit, for their own agenda, not for the people, not to do things the right way, not to streamline processes, not to promote efficiency, but for their own benefit, for their own pursuit of power. And somebody who is able to really decipher this and ask the right questions at the Senate hearing today is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. We've had him on the show before. He's a friend of the program. And he did an amazing job today. We have a very fiery cut of Senator Ted Cruz with the current acting director of the Secret Service, Ronald Rowe. Alongside him is the deputy FBI director, Paul Abadi. But I want you to pay particular attention to what the director of the Secret Service had to say and the questions that Senator Cruz poses to him.
I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics. Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president, leadership appointed by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question. One, there is a process for a candidate nominee to receive protection.
Does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop anywhere?
Bipartisan process that the Hill participates.
It's a bicameral, bipartisan process. What cameral?
For a candidate,
you are not a Congress. You don't have a cameral.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Okay, you're refusing to answer the question. Let me ask, because the failures on that day were catastrophic. By the way, is it true that on the day of the Butler event that Secret Service transferred agent from President Trump to the First Lady?
No, sir, that's not true.
That's been widely reported.
It's not true. There was one airport agent that actually went on the manpower request for the Trump detail. They handled the arrival at the airport
what
for
is
the First Lady.
What was the relative size of the Trump detail compared to the detail that is assigned to the President or the First Lady?
Senator, the former president travels with a full shift, just like the president.
What's so the exact same size? Is that your testimony that President Trump had the same size detail that President Biden has?
On the day of in Butler, the agents surrounding him, it is the same number of agents surrounding the president today. There is a difference between a sitting president who also not only
Hold on, you're using president in a way that is not clear. Is it your testimony that in Butler, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump had the same number of agents protecting him that Joe Biden has at a comparable event?
I'm telling you the shift, the close protection shift surrounding. That's
yes
what you
no?
asked me, Senator, and I'm trying to answer it.
You are not answering it. Is it the same number of agents or not?
Senator, there is a difference between the sitting president of the United States.
Then what's the difference?
The difference?
2x, 3x, 5x,
National
10x?
Command Authority to launch a nuclear strike. Sir, there are other assets
how many
that
more
travel
agents?
with the president that
Sir,
the former president
sir,
will
you are
not get.
refusing to
but
answer
the number
straight.
of Secret Service
Sir,
agents protecting him.
Stop interrupting me.
Go ahead,
You
Senator.
are refusing to answer clear and direct questions. I am asking the relative difference in the number of agents between those assigned to Donald Trump and those assigned to Joe Biden. I'm not asking why you assign more to Joe Biden. I'm asking, is the difference, is it 2x? Is it 3x? Is it 5x? Is it 10x?
Senator, I will get you that number so you can see it with your own eyes.
Oh, wow. This guy is a real piece of work. Again, this is Director Ronald Rowe, R-O-W-E, acting director of the Secret Service. I got to tell you, this guy doesn't seem like a Secret Service guy. He seems like a deep state show, like somebody who's come up the ranks, not of a law enforcement agency per se, but of any bureaucratic agency in any large bureaucracy. What's the answer to X, Y, and Z question? Well, we can have a conversation about that. Well, I can get you those numbers later. Absolutely, sure. What's your name? Well, I spell it with an R, I spell it with an I, I spell it with a D as well. But he will never answer the actual question. And then he wants to yell at Senator Cruz for asking the questions. This is what we have here. But somebody who was in the Secret Service, and he is a former agent with 28 years of experience in security, Robert Caltabiano is back with us. And Agent Caltabiano, I want to ask you, when you hear this response, was that how they were? Were they that bureaucratic when you were with the Secret Service?
No, Rich, at different times, different people. I don't know the acting director. He was probably too young of an agent when in my time. I do know some of the people that are surrounding him at the process, but no, I think that he got himself into something, as you know, with Senator Cruz. I know Senator Cruz, and once you get down that slippery slope, it's very hard for you to get yourself out of it.
Yeah, you're going to lose. Absolutely, I agree, and I'm glad that he did. I'm glad Senator Cruz put this on display for the American people to see, because I think it's important. These are questions that need to be answered, and I really want you to, really weigh in on that. We're seconds away from a quick pause, but when we come back, I really want you to just give us, your opinion, but also your professional opinion, and a little bit of, historical analysis on how things were when you were with the Secret Service, because so many of us, we kind of trust what we're told. And lamentably, that's not working out. As Senator Cruz just pointed out very clearly, you really can't trust some of the people that are in charge right now, and that's lamentable. Folks, again, our guest is Robert Caltabiano, former Secret Service agent, United States Secret Service. He's been in the security business for 28 years, and we're going to continue our conversation on this hearing into the Trump shooting, as well as what's going on with the FBI's investigation of that shooting. There's more and more information every day about that. So, folks, keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez. We're coming right back with Robert Caltabiano, former U.S. Secret Service special agent in charge, SAC's a SAC. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about, and he's with us live. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty? What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed.
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was? What more do you need to investigate
to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot.
A lot of people didn't do their jobs.
I cannot put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
what do you mean put your thumb on the scale?
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
then
just like you have.
Somebody to
and I will
hold
tell
them
you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly,
We've got people who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
This guy sounds like a politician instead of a law enforcement professional. Folks, welcome back. You were listening to an exchange between Senator Josh Hawley and, again, Ronald Rowe, the acting director of the Secret Service. I got to tell you, this guy sounds a lot worse, a lot more combative, and stonewalls a heck of a lot more than Kimberly Cheadle. And I want to bring back our guest because he knows exactly what's going on. He's worked alongside 7 U.S. presidents. He was a special agent in charge in Texas, an assistant special agent in charge in New York City, spent nearly 15 years with the Secret Service, has been in global security for over 26 years, and he's the host of a security podcast called Only in America. Former United States Secret Service Special Agent in Charge, Robert Caltabiano. When you hear this, you heard the Cruz, now you heard the Hawley line of questioning, and the theme that I see, Special Agent Caltabiano, is this. Nobody's given any answers. What's up with that?
Well, I think that, like we talked about before, that they don't have all the answers, and it's kind of obvious. And I think the fact is this is going to be a slow process of an investigation. It just is. I think you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I think he falls into the trap, lack of experience, how to answer this. Some of the questions, I think he could have said, I can brief you in a closed door session and not open sessions. He made a comment about every day is there's a counterpart system. And so in the Secret Service, what they mean by that is you're going to team up with, say, a local police officer. Well, that's basically an everyday event when you work in protection in the Secret Service. The Secret Service is not big enough to conduct these big type of events or many events by themselves. So in that part there, it should have been an easy answer. The fact is, though, I think I said it on your show, 2 reasons. One was a lack of communication, and number 2 was the lack of proper resources, actually 3, and the lack of experience. And I think the Secret Service is in a bad time right now because of the lack of experienced agents across all the different offices. And unfortunately, everything falls through the cracks.
Now, what do you make of some of the information that's coming out? This information that they've spotted the shooters, some local cops had their guns drawn. They didn't communicate through the walkie-talkie system. Some say they had the walkie-talkies, others saying they didn't. I understand that they're investigating a crime and they're figuring out and piecing it together. I get that part. But what I don't get is why or how, and maybe, again, in my own naivete, but how do you get this many communication lapses and failures of operations? How do you get there if not everybody's dropping the ball? Or is it really all you need is one person to drop the ball for all of this to go haywire?
I think it's like playing dominoes. All you need is really one or 2 people. And, the blame I hate to say a blame game. I hate that word, but it's on two sides. It's on the local law enforcement side and obviously on the Secret Service side for the failures. But all you need is one person, and let's say, and I can't discuss everything, but you have a communications room, and we call it the CP or command post room. And with that, you're supposed to have people from different agencies in there or the different radios to be able to monitor. And then you're in your counterpart system. So if you were a Secret Service agent, for all your listeners out there, in certain positions, you should have been teamed up with a local police officer. So you'll have two communications. You'll have the Secret Service communications and the police communications. I think one of the failures is that some of that didn't happen here. And so these policemen could have seen this individual. They could have spotted him. But by the time they did that, the time kind of elapsed for them to get to the command post or to call out to the Secret Service for any instructions. And then that, to me, is a catastrophic failure. It shouldn't have happened. And I think that's what happened here.
Now, there was some talk on ABC News of some of the local police officers in Butler that they were, I think, reiterating that they did not have this communication with the Secret Service, and what they were basically alluding to yesterday, the sniper from the local police, was that they just didn't have this level of communication. And it seems like what you're describing, that this command center, this CP, whatever you described, and I'm wondering why. Like, is it again this something that's optional? Is it something that sometimes they don't do, or they only do it for larger situations?
No, absolutely not. There should be no option on that. Normally, when you have an event in this size, or really, especially during a campaign year, you're going to have meetings with your local police. You're going to try to gather all the people, especially the supervisors, and you're going to go over your plans. You're going to go over where people are going to be standing, what to expect, and you're going to discuss it. And then you're going to then ask your people to go off with their counterparts after that meeting to further discuss what they have to do. I don't know fully if they did that here. It sounds like, and I heard the same reports you did, that unfortunately some important positions it was not done, and that of itself is a failure. Whether there was an assassination attempt or not, that would have been a failure right there. And so, you're going to see more and more, I think, each and every day, Rich. It's going to be like a drip, and more is going to come out. I believe you're going to see more agents or people talking and saying, this process hasn't been working for quite some time. In my view, the Secret Service has a cancer, and they're going to have to find some type of chemo to get rid of it.
Yeah, really well put. We're going to come right back with former special agent in charge of the Secret Service, Robert Caltabiano. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. So I think that was probably a pivotal point where I started thinking things were wrong, because that never happened, and we had no communication with the Secret Service.
You had no communication with the Secret Service at all on that Saturday?
Not until after the shooting.
And by then?
It was too late.
That is Jason Woods, Pennsylvania SWAT team officer on duty during Trump's Butler rally. He was on ABC this weekend on Sunday. And he says that they never met with the Secret Service for a briefing. That is exactly what Agent Caltabiano is telling us likely occurred. based on the failures that we're seeing. So if, in fact, this is the case, we've got the Secret Service Director, acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, who's in the hot seat today, and here's what he had to say.
As a career law enforcement officer and a 25-year veteran with the Secret Service, I cannot defend why that roof was not better secured. Local law enforcement did their very level best to try to locate him. They did provide us the photos 30 minutes prior. He evaded any detection by law enforcement.
So, Agent Caltabiano, when you hear that, it sounds like your hypothesis is correct, but what goes through your mind when you hear this? I know for me, I think I would be almost embarrassed, like, wow, I can't believe these people work for the same organization I worked for. What's your thought?
Well, in 27 plus years that I was with the Secret Service, when somebody says that somebody evaded, that kind of boils me a little bit. We take our pride that you're going to go through everything to try to find somebody, and especially in a situation like that out in the field. So when I heard that, obviously to me, that was a horrible failure right there, that they didn't find a person quick enough. Obviously, they didn't. And number two, when I heard that police officer, and I saw that report, it indicates what we just talked about is the lack of preparation. It could have been the time-wise. It could have been, and I don't want to speculate, but the lack of preparation and the meetings that need to take place in order for things to run smoothly. And obviously, it didn't happen. Going forward, I think you're going to see, and if you haven't already, that they throw everything but the kitchen sink, what they can do, obviously, to make sure nothing happens again. The issue is, Rich, is that nobody, and put it to all our listeners out there, nobody in the Secret Service will ever say and can be 100% that they're going to be, you could protect somebody's life. And it's just an astronomical amount of pressure to do that. A Secret Service agent has to be correct 100% of the time in order for their mission to be successful. 100%. Just one small little mistake leads to catastrophe. Here, we're seeing several mistakes. And so I just hope and pray that they get their act together and they do find some chemotherapy someplace to fix this.
Amigos, we're on with former United States Secret Service Special Agent in Charge, Robert Caltabiano. He's the host of Only in America, which is a podcast that he does where he talks about his experience working with 7 United States presidents and his decades of experience in law enforcement and with the Secret Service. And Special Agent in Charge Caltabiano, when you have to, I guess, give a summation of all of this, if you were the boss, if you were this guy's boss, what do you do? Whose head rolls? What's the first step in fixing this problem?
Well, first of all, we shouldn't have been in this problem. You have to look at, number one, your training, your hiring. Are you getting the best candidates? Are you getting the best people? Who are the people that you send out there to do these advance work? One of the people that I worked with over the years, Ronald Reagan, said, "Don't be afraid to see what you see." And I think I want to really put that to all your listeners out there, is don't be afraid to see what we see and ask those pertinent questions and, hold people accountable more. There's no accountability in government. We all know that. You can't fire somebody. It takes forever to try to fire a government employee. And so, today when the senators were questioning Mr. Rowe, he just can't go and fire somebody. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. And it's us, the people, that have to put pressure on Congress to change those rules. Government, especially Washington, in my view, the thing that's wrong with Washington, in my view, is Washington itself. People go there and they never leave. And so they don't know, especially in law enforcement and federal law enforcement, many people don't know what it's like to go and work in other cities, and they get too comfortable where they are. And when that happens, complacency sets in, and that's when problems arise.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Special Agent in Charge, let everybody know how they can find you if they want to keep up to speed with your podcast and any of the other work you're doing.
All right, you can find us on Only in America. I think when we do some other shows here, and you also can find me on all the social media sites. We do this, some of us, I think, Rich, and love to talk to people like you, is just to put an honest face and opinion. I don't like criticizing people, but I took an oath to the Constitution, and I love my country too much to say silent. And I think it's people like you that help us all out so we can get better. Although I'm not in government anymore, once you're there, you want everybody to be better than you are. And I hope something good comes out of this.
Well, I appreciate your service to the country and taking the time to stay up late with us and the almost 6 million listeners that we have on this program. I think they really appreciate your insight and your experience. And again, I'm grateful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. God bless.
You bet. God bless. All right, amigos, we're coming right back. We'll continue. I got a little bit of audio from the hearing today. Yet again, folks in the Senate are saying we absolutely must have accountability in the Secret Service. And you've got Secret Service Director, acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe saying that, hey, we didn't know. We didn't know there was a shooter on the roof. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The lives of law enforcement officers working the event and those in the audience have been forever changed. Yet the media has shamefully moved on to other stories, and Google has been caught trying to suppress iconic images of a bloody Donald Trump, images showcasing the resolve of our nation in the face of the attack. But the American people have not forgotten, and we will not forget. There is no question that this was a monumental failure by the Secret Service. They had one job, and they failed. We know that. What remains unclear is who specifically failed, how they failed, and what must be done to ensure that something like this never happens again. America deserves to know that those responsible for this failure are, frankly, not going to be in charge of securing the upcoming Democrat National Convention. We need to know that someone's been placed on suspension, that someone won't be in charge of the next Donald Trump rally.
That's Senator Rand Paul giving an earful to the Secret Service Director, Acting Director Ronald Rowe. And again, part of what he had to say was that they just didn't know there was a shooter.
As you saw in my written statement, I am prepared to provide an overview of the security planning leading up to and during the July 13th attack. However, I would like to point out that based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter-sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding those personnel were not aware the assailant had a firearm until they heard gunshots. Prior to that, they were operating with the knowledge that local law enforcement was working an issue of a suspicious individual prior to the shots being fired.
Again, that's Director Ronald Rowe, Secret Service Acting Director, trying to skate through this. I don't think it's going to work, but he might be able to stonewall right through Election Day. We're going to see what happens. We'll discuss that more in the subsequent hour of the show. We're also going to get with psychotherapist Jill Robin Payne. She's going to join us to talk about the PTSD related to the Trump shooting, as well as what's setting people off with road rage. That's all coming up. Plus, the crazy stuff coming out of California with the Bill 1414. Don't go anywhere, folks. Rich Valdez, more to come straight ahead. I'll be right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of the program. Looking forward to speaking with you guys in about an hour, and throughout this hour as well, if you want to chime in on what we're talking about. But the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And there's plenty to discuss. Let me see how much of this I could squeeze in very quickly here. But Kamala Harris, or as I like to call her, Que Mala Eres, the Vice President of the United States, who is positioning herself to be the Democrat nominee for president at the upcoming Democrat National Convention, has announced, her campaign has announced that she will be selecting her running mate in the next 72 hours or so, maybe sooner, and will be going on tour with this running mate starting on Tuesday, so a week from today. We're going to find out exactly who that is in the coming days. I will keep you posted on that. Big news on the Harris campaign today is that she's making a play for white men to get more white male voters. And this is obviously a stronghold of President Trump's. And there was some funny audio on that. We'll get into that a little bit later. We also have some news coming from Venezuela. In Venezuela, you've got some army captains, Javier and Juan Carlos Nieto Quintero, that are on tape saying that it's time to make the right decision at this historical moment. It's evident that we have a new president-elect. Listen to this.
Hoy, 30 de julio del 2024, nosotros, capitanes Javier y Juan Carlos Nieto Quintero, miembros de las promociones.
And what they're talking about, again, is that they've realized that they've won. The reporting, listen to this. I'm looking at it here. Let me see if I could share it with you. Venezuela opposition has 73% of the vote tallies, and it says its victory is irreversible. Maduro, of course, Nicolás Maduro, the current president, says he declared himself the winner. And there's several countries, again, that's still not acknowledging this. You now have state and federal police that are abandoning their posts because they refuse to hold back the mobs of citizens that are dissatisfied with this fraud. And they're removing their shirts and saying, look, I'm not a cop anymore. And I think that's a tremendous thing to do, right? They're putting their paycheck and their pension on the line to do the right thing for their patria, right? For their country and for their fellow compatriots. So Godspeed to them in Venezuela. If there's any updates and changes on that, we will definitely let you know. But the head of that same army where these two army captains are calling for the new president-elect, their boss, their commander-in-chief, is calling this protest a coup in progress. And they've already murdered 7 of these dissidents trying to quell the protesting. Their economy continues to be in really rough shape. And Maduro, the dictator, he says that Elon Musk is his arch enemy and has challenged him to a fight. We'll get into that a little bit in open phones across America. Judge Joe Brown has some very harsh words for Que Mala Eres and her record. He called her a piece of crap. He used a more choice word. I'll get into that in a little bit as well. But right now, I want you to hear Kamala Harris claiming that she has a better record on immigration than former President Trump. Check this out.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
Actually, that's a hip-hop group called the Migos. They've kind of broken up because one of them was killed. And but Quavo and Offset still remain. Takeoff is the one that died. And that's Harris making a play for younger voters who listen to that type of music and saying that she's better than Trump on this immigration issue, and he doesn't walk it like he talks it, but I think he does. And I think most people realize that. And, earlier today, not to get off on too much of a tangent, but I was visiting with my Cuban friend who came to the United States on the back of a jet ski. Very good guy. He was a lawyer in Cuba, and he looks at things rather objectively, but he's very swayed. And he's been swayed lately by watching CNN. And it's funny how you could take someone who responds to something intellectually and emotionally in one instance, and then again in another instance, once they've been under the influence of CNN, that they change those same emotional and intellectual responses to the same situation, but with new information from CNN. And I just thought it was remarkable. And he says, Harris is catching up. Harris, it's not the same. El Trompito squandering his lead. And all I could think was, these are the talking points. It's like when you hear the Democrats chime in unison that J.D. Vance or anybody else is weird. I had a listener tell me today on Twitter that he thinks that I'm weird. And I just thought, isn't that funny how, you get this one talking point that's out there and it just permeates all of the discourse. And it just fascinates me that the media is that effective. It really is. So we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But what I want to talk about right now is a new study that ranks California #1 for road rage. And this is very interesting, right? This study is coming out of Forbes, a new study from Forbes Advisor. And Take Two, the business publication, recently surveyed 10,000 licensed drivers across all 50 states. What country has 150 states? What am I reading here? And it found California had the highest percentage of drivers who have experienced some type of road rage. Isn't that interesting? They used to be number 13. They shot all the way up to #1. Listen to this report from Fox LA.
A new study says we are, in fact, right here in California, #1 behind the wheel, and it's not a good thing. We rank the top as the top state in road rage. That's right.
So we have the most unhoused, and we're #1 in road rage. Right, we're doing great.
Well, this is according to Forbes. California has replaced Arizona as the #1 state in the United States for road rage. It's a huge jump from 2023 when we were ranked 13. Okay, yeah. Forbes found that nearly 50% of drivers here have had other drivers cut them off on purpose. More than 30% have been subject to verbal abuse from other drivers, and about 11% of California drivers have seen other motorists leave their vehicles to fight or yell at them.
Again, that's from Good Day LA on Fox 11 in Los Angeles. And I want to know what's triggering people to road rage. And I say this as somebody who full well understands what used to trigger me. I used to be a road rageaholic. I really was. When I worked in Manhattan and drove there, I really did. I lost it on many occasions. But I started taking the bus and piece of cake. I became, like Gandhi, right? Super pacifist. But what triggers road rage? I want to get to the bottom of this with psychotherapist Jill Robin Payne. She's the author of the book Bempathy, Simplify Communication by Looking at the Third Side of the Coin. Jill Robin Payne, welcome back.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So I wanted to get into this because I thought, what an interesting thing. A, one, I have a little experience with myself. And B, for me, it was getting off the road. It wasn't like I'm any better at it. Now I am. I just don't really go into the city much. And maybe I'm a little bit more mindful than I used to be. And I'm going to the gym a little bit. So maybe that's helpful. But at the time, I think I was just very stressed out with my commute. And it was almost a welcome relief for somebody to say, you want to step outside? Sure, why not? We're stuck in traffic anyway. But obviously that's not mature, responsible, or anything else. So let's talk a little bit about this. How did California become #1? What are they going through?
Well, I don't know if you have driven there. So I've driven there, and the traffic is abominable. The economy is not good. A lot of the people during COVID, they were leaving California. So if you're leaving a place, that's a sign that it's not giving you what you want. And so I myself don't really know people from California. I've just I'm just seeing what is happening. And so that, and combined with the economy, that's going to get people upset. And when you're in a car, you feel like you're protected. And so you have a false sense of safety and superiority. Matter of fact, if you get in a truck, you feel really strong. And so when that happens, you're in that car, you feel protected, you feel you can do anything you want, and therefore you are uninhibited. And you do things like that. And then when someone shoots the finger, or it's also your mindset. If your mindset is where you're not in a good mood, then of course nothing that happens to you that day is going to be positive. And so when someone cuts you off, it's all about me, Rich. They cut me off. What were they doing? They were trying to hurt me. And you go into fight or flight mode, and there you go. And it is just, you are out of control when that happens.
Now,
it's very scary.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's very scary because right after COVID and during COVID, I would tell my clients, please be careful when you're driving, because people will go from 0 to 10 in anger very, very quickly. They'll smile at you, and then right away they're going to just start yelling. So you have to watch it, because people that are in this collective trauma, they really are annoyed, irritated all the time, so that's really a 1 to 3 level angry. And so they go from 3 to 10 in 0 seconds. And so you have to watch it. They're not at 0 happy. they're at irritated, bothered, and annoyed constantly. So we just need to watch it really where we are, and especially, I guess, in L.A.
Yeah. Now, when you have licensed drivers that are on the road that are observing this type of behavior, what is the best way for them to deal with these angry drivers?
So what I tell my clients is stay away from them and be very aware of be very cognizant of your surroundings. And if you see someone driving erratically or speeding or weaving in and out, you want to go to another lane and stay as far away from them as possible. So, just to be proactive, that's what you do.
So avoid the situation, but let's say you can't, right? And this guy's banging on your window, inviting you outside. What are you, half a man? What kind of man are you? Get out of your car. What is the, the recommended way to de-escalate a situation like that?
So, so this is what you do. It's body language. So, one, you just shake your head, yes, yes. You hear them, have a nice, calm facial expression. And as you're doing that, you are maneuvering to get away from them. So your goal is to get away from these people, because if you are irate, you are not thinking rationally. And so you want to get away from them. That's what you need to do.
So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And the reason I think it's a good idea is just because these people are so angry because of what you just mentioned. And I know for me it was like that. I would get angry because I was like, I've got to be, Midtown Manhattan, and I've got another 4 lights I have to do. Each light's probably 3-4 minutes because of, the way they change. And sometimes if you get stuck at the same light even after it changes because of traffic, it adds time on there. And you can get stuck into thinking like, not, I should have left earlier, but more so like, what is wrong with you? Why are you driving so slow? You're killing me over here. I've got to get somewhere, and I'm going to be late because of you. No, not because of me. No, because of you. And I think that's why people get angry at complete strangers who are just sharing the road with them. So I think what you're saying is really good advice. Jill Robin Payne, I want you to hang on. We're going to take a quick pause right here. And when we come back, I want to wrap up on this. And I also want to get your thoughts on the collective trauma that America's facing after witnessing a former president nearly get assassinated, as well as watching a former fire chief get assassinated from the bullet that missed Trump and actually killed one person and injured 2 others. Folks, we're coming right back with licensed psychotherapist Jill Robin Payne.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America? This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with licensed psychotherapist Jill Robin Payne. She's the author of the book Bempathy, which is a combination of banter and empathy. And this installment of the Bempathy book series is Simplify Communication by Looking at the Third Side of the Coin. Now, listen, I love having Jill Robin Payne on the show because I get to get into my radio leather chaise lounge, and I lay down, I put my feet up on the couch, and I let her shrink my head because this is what she does, and she does it so well. And we all need to learn how to look at the third side of the coin, and especially in a situation like this where there's this, I'm going to say, trauma that's being experienced by everyone. It's shared by a lot of people, what they witnessed with President Trump getting shot and dodging a bullet. And for many people like me, it was very inspiring, right? Kind of strengthened my faith. I realized, wow, miracles do happen. But there's also a lot of people that are really put off by it. And Jill Robin Payne, I want you to give us your understanding on this.
Okay. So, well, we all know what's going on, that there's that polarization that's happening. And now the sociologists, political scientists, psychologists, they're all calling it affective polarization, Rich, because it is very emotional. And so what's happening is we're turning into my group, your group. So my group, and it's sort of survival. And we're doing it more and more. I'm going to say it again. It has to do with, there's these things called the algorithms that run our computers, our electronics, and they just feed us all this information that if we're already irritated, they're going to give us more things that are get us irritated. And they've done studies. The more I talk about my anger, if you go to a therapist, don't talk about anger, because if you keep talking about it, you will get angrier. That's a fact. They've done studies. So that's not, you usually do things that are solution focused. So here you have people that are angry, irritated from collective trauma. That's one of the side effects, is irritability, anger, depression, fear, anxiety, all these things. You're on edge. Like I told you, you're irritated, bothered, and annoyed. So you're that 1 to 3 level angry. And so then you have, okay, so that's an emotion. That's great. That's an emotion. That's a signal. Then you have aggression. So there was an experiment. I know I don't have much time, but there was an experiment.
45 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, let's just say that if you see people that are violent and modeling a violent, aggressive behavior, you may have a tendency to also do that, especially if you are in that anger mood. There's the Bobo doll experiment. They can look at that in 1961. So you have anger, aggression, algorithms, and that can lead to violence.
Wow. Jill Robin Payne, excellent as always. This susceptibility to mimicking the violence is something I hadn't heard of before. Folks, check her out at JillRobinPayne.com. Jill Robin Payne, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Rich. Bye.
You bet. Folks, coming up straight ahead, more on Bill 1414. I'm Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So we've been following this Bill 1414 that's in the California legislature, and similar bills like it, where Democrats, through pressure from the LGBTQIA movement, are succumbing to the pressure from this lobbying group and making it more difficult to prosecute the bad guys, or I should say making it easier to own a person, to engage in sex slavery, to engage in prostitution, to engage in so many things. And recently, in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I played a clip of audio for you of a state senator in California who had enough. And honestly, the reason she had enough was because she was retiring and she didn't need to get reelected. So she was able to be unabashedly honest. And kudos to her. She's a Democrat, state senator in California, Susan Talmantes Eggman. And she scolded her fellow Democrats for their lack of support for 1414, saying, I'm done with us, because she realized that this bill, made it more difficult to own another person. And that was something that they came to the defense of, and took umbrage with, and defended the pedophiles, defended the human traffickers. And it's unthinkable that the Democrats would do this. And one of their own had to scold them. Listen to this.
I'd like to say, as a progressive, proud member of this body for the last 12 years, I'm done. I'm done with us protecting people who would buy and abuse our children. I'm done. I don't want to send more black and brown men to prison. I don't want more people in prison, but I don't want people buying girls. I don't want people buying little girls anymore. And I'm tired of saying it's okay and that we have to protect the men who do it. As a mental health professional and as a social worker, I can tell you I've spent my entire career working with people who have been wounded. I'm not going to say beyond repair, but they have been wounded to their core by the abuse that's been heaped on them, oftentimes by those that they love and look to protect them. And if their parents won't do it, then by God, we should.
That is California State Senator Susan Talmantes Eggman, or in Spanish, Talmantes Eggman. And good for her. Now, I understand it's likely her position as a misandrist and as a feminist, where she likely has some of the positions she has. But at the end of the day, I agree with her on this. I think that this is wrong. Like, you should not own people. We should not protect the pedophiles. We should not. If you have to put people in jail, you put them in jail. And I think she's taking a sensible approach here. And it's a shame that she doesn't have the support of the rest of her party. Anyway, I want to get into this with somebody who understands this, has been following it. Sheri Few is the founder and president of USPIE, Parents Involved in Education. And I want to get her take on Democrats weakening this bill against child prostitution, again, at the behest of the LGBTQ activist community. Sheri Few, welcome back.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate you having me back on. This is a difficult topic, but one we need to talk about. Oh, 100%. And what do you make of this? Because obviously there is a side out there, right? There is a lobby and an entire movement of people that are defending this bill, and it's unthinkable to me, but they're out there. Yes, they are. And so what was happening with this bill, from my understanding, is, currently it's only a misdemeanor for someone who engages in prostitution with a minor. So they're trying to stiffen the bill and increase the penalty, raise it to a felony. And, it was for all minor children until the LGBTQIA, as you call it. I'm not sure what the IA stands for, but they keep adding letters.
Yeah,
when the activists, alphabet soup. But when these activists testified during hearings for the bill, they actually said that it was overly punitive and would disproportionately impact marginalized communities, meaning LGBTQ communities. And it says that it would criminalize members of their so-called community. And so those are the people that are fighting this. It's the LGBTQ community, and some have said, I loved in the article that referenced this, when I was doing the research, someone said that a better way of putting it is members of the alphabet mafia are degenerate groomers and disproportionately likely to solicit minors for sex.
Right.
So they want anything goes, open doors for sexual quote unquote identities. So and you and I have talked about this before, Rich. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I was thinking all afternoon about this. Were you not the one who told me about MAP, the minor attracted person?
Oh, yes, I was. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, and I hadn't heard of it before you told me about it, and I've talked about it a lot since then and on the interviews I do, and I actually Googled it the other day, and I was shocked at all the websites of organizations that support this ridiculous minor attracted person as an acceptable identity, a misunderstood identity for pedophiles to have their behavior normalized. And that's exactly where they're headed. And this, I think, the LGBTQ activists in this case, I think, reflects that type of mentality.
Yeah. Listen, I remember hearing that. I think it's been 2 summers now that I first heard Professor Alan Walker from, I forget which school at the moment, talk about this, Old Dominion University. But I was shocked that they were trying to soften the image. And then if you look at the legislature in California, now they're softening the law, or at least keeping it soft and preventing it from being more hardened against, like this woman said, owning and selling and buying and renting girls. And the excuse that they use is that we don't want to put black and brown men in jail. This person, Alan Walker, who is a female that identifies as a male, professor of this center, thinks that we should call pedophiles minor attracted persons because they're not a pedophile until they actually engage in the act, and that they're merely being attracted is not a crime. And, you know, I understand that even from a biblical perspective, right? Be angry and sin not. And, you know, Jesus said you're equally guilty of the sin if you think, man, I could kill this person, or if you actually kill them. I get that. And I also get in the eyes of the law, if you're rendering unto Caesar what's Caesar's, if I say, man, I could kill this person, but I don't kill them, I don't go to jail. I do get that. I'm not saying we should jail every last person that's like that, but I don't think that we should sit here and defend them either and say, well, no, that's a MAP. That's a minor attracted person. They're okay because they just like little kids, but they don't act on it. I think that's crazy, Sheri Few.
Oh, it is crazy. And to think they're not going to act on it is just denying the obvious. I mean, if somebody is going to prey on young children in any form, I think it's a criminal offense. And we have to protect children. I mean, it's the job of government to protect its citizens. It's probably the most important job they have, to protect their rights and protect their safety, and children of the utmost. And so for anyone to think that it's okay and to try to sympathize with pedophiles and think it's okay for them to imagine this type of behavior with young people and them not act on it is just ridiculous. It's beyond belief.
Yeah, really well put. Really well put. Folks, we're going to come right back with Sheri Few. She's founder and president of USPIE, Parents Involved in Education. We're going to get into this a little bit more because I think it's worthy of conversation, plus a couple other things that they're working on. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we continue our conversation with Sheri Few. She's founder and president of USPIE. And Sheri Few, we got your thoughts on it. I think many of us are in agreement on how crazy this is and the fact that you have the Democrats, I'm not going to say divided. It's a handful of Democrats that really aren't with them. The majority of them seem to be with this movement to protect the pedophile or to protect the offender and not the victim here. But what's the next course of action? What is it that USPIE is calling on parents to do, and what is the next step?
Well, parents have to be vigilant in today's society. And, California is one of arguably the most aggressive state in the country when it comes to, enforcing these LGBTQ dictates. But they have to be careful in any state that they live in because it has permeated the culture. It is in the school system. Children are being taught at very young ages the quote-unquote gender spectrum, and they're confusing young children before they even hit puberty. They're being told that they could possibly be a sex opposite their biological sex. So parents have to be vigilant. They have to especially be careful when it comes to educating their children. The government schools have become so toxic that we don't recommend any parent keep their child in government schools. Now, that doesn't mean we abandon the kids that are left there. We have to fight for them and fight for truth to be taught in government schools. But a parent's first line of defense is to protect their children. So we don't recommend that children are in government schools because they will be subjected to this nonsense. And, two other laws in California that have been recently passed under Governor Newsom are troubling. And one is prohibiting teachers from telling parents about a child's gender dysphoria. So if a child does think, they become confused because they're being taught that they might be a different sex than their biological sex, if they see signs of that at school, the teacher is actually prohibited from telling the parents. That's the law that was signed by the governor just a few weeks ago. And in fact, as a result of that, Elon Musk, you may have heard, moved 2 major companies from California in response to how ridiculous that law is. So it's good to see that influential people in the commerce are flexing their muscles against and pushing back against this nonsense. But parents especially need to be vigilant because you can't count on the government to protect your children.
Yeah, really well put. And Sheri Few, let everyone know how they can find out more about USPIE and keep in touch with you and learn more about the work you guys are doing.
Well, we have a website. It's USPIE, that's USPIE.org. And they can, right at the top of the homepage, there's a button where you can click to join the movement, and that'll put them on our email list. We won't inundate people with emails, but about once a week we send something out on the latest things that are happening in the government schools, the atrocities. We have a Millstone of the Month award that we award every month, and unfortunately there's tons of nominees for this award because there are so many egregious adults that are affecting children in a negative way. We also have a link to our film that we produced, Truth and Lies in American Education. It's a great, eye-opening expose of what's happening in the government schools and a really good place for parents to become educated on what's happening so they can make decisions about what's in the best interest of their children. So the website, again, is USPIE.org. And we may have a chapter in their state, and we'd be glad to connect them with the chapter leaders and others in their state that they can connect with so that they can make a difference in their communities.
Outstanding work. Folks, check them out at USPIE. Sheri Few, you are a gentlewoman, a scholar, and a patriot. I'm grateful that you stayed up late with us tonight.
All right. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. God bless. All right, amigos, we continue with our conversation straight ahead. Your calls and more are coming up at the top of the hour, so make sure you get your calls in now. The number is 833-482-5337, That's, again, live. We're going to be taking your calls live. We're live, especially on our brand new station, WLS Chicago. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
How many of you know a black man who has expressed to you that they're committed to voting for Donald Trump? Okay. For the brothers who have told you that or said that to you, has the emergence of Kamala Harris changed that for those brothers? No.
None of them raised their hands that second time around. And I thought that was pretty remarkable. They all said that they would vote for Trump. None of them cared. These are all black men that are being interviewed by MSNBC. None of them cared that they would actually have to deal with Harris. Didn't matter. It completely did not matter. I thought that was pretty interesting because a lot of people are, and especially in the media, are making the case that because Harris is in the race now, all of a sudden Trump is losing. My contention remains that the only reason they've put Harris into the race is to mitigate loss, to cut their losses, right? They don't want to have the bloodbath they were going to have with Biden at the top of the ticket where you lose all the down ballot races. The money started to flow again. She's getting her footing. She's out there with her funny and fake accents. I think today there was a clip of her where she's using what many are saying is a fake urban accent. And what's interesting about it is that she's getting all of this. She's getting all of this flack for being, like Hillary and like so many others that have been out there, that when they do AOC, a lot of them, when they appear in front of a certain urban group, they tend to code switch a little bit, right? And they will come out with a little bit of a urban flair. So I think that's always pretty funny. And we have a clip of that. I just can't find exactly which one it is. Let me see. Cares about himself. Doesn't think it's a good fit. We got Judge Joe Brown. That's a good one. We're going to do that right at the top of the next hour. I think you're going to enjoy listening to Judge Joe Brown from TV and everything that he's had to say about Kamala Harris. Trust me, I don't think you want to miss that one. All right, folks. Anyway, we're coming back for another hour. Open Phone America. Your calls and more coming up. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening again. What's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Tuesday night. Live national. Our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Of course, a big welcome to WLS 890 AM in Chicago, the newest station to join our family of stations across the country. And looking forward to speaking with you guys. Of course, you know, the third hour of this show has been a tradition for 46 years, where you've got Larry King started that when I was born, and a tradition that was continued by the great and late Jim Bohannon. And happy to continue that tradition with you all. 833-482-5337. Now, as you guys get your calls in, I see you've got calls from Idaho, from Maryland, and other parts of our wonderful country, New York, California as well. Looking forward to speaking with you guys. Florida. I also want to make good on something that I teased earlier. Judge Joe Brown, you know him from television. He was a lawyer out of California and had a TV show. He was a TV judge like Judge Judy, but he was tough, right? He was a tough guy because he was very street. And Judge Joe Brown did an interview, and he really, he let everybody know exactly how he felt about Que Mala Eres. Yes, that's right. Que Mala Eres is, of course, the Vice President of the United States, who is running for president herself. And Judge Joe Brown had quite a lot to say about her. Listen to this.
But I got to ask you about Kamala Harris. How you feel about her?
She's a piece of shit. I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching. She's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants. Now, the problem is that'll get somebody to a certain level quickly, but you can't get past that level if you don't have competence and talent. So my thing about it is if I'm crude about it, in this city years ago, I used to represent a whole bunch of pimps and hoes, and I know a hoe when I see one. And I say this, I don't care, women, you do what you want to do if you want to have recreational sex, but when you do the casting couch or anything else for professional purposes to get paid or advance, you a hoe. And she's old hoe. And the problem is what is she supposed to do? Somebody, one of her sycophant slaves comes up and unwraps her in a carpet naked at Putin's feet, and he says, oh, yeah, I'm Julius Caesar. He said, no, ho, I got better stuff here already. Plus, I don't want you anyway, you old woman. Get on up, you know. Or Xi Jinping, is he supposed to be impressed? She's doing word salad. Well, we're here today because China and the U.S. are here today, and that's why we have to agree on what we're doing here today. Like, fool, what did you just say? You know, did you say anything?
That, of course, Judge Joe Brown from TV calling Kamala Harris a piece of S-word and calling her an old hoe. This is from the YouTube channel called The Art of Dialogue. Brand new, came out today, about 4 or 5 hours ago. And a lot of people might think it's a deep fake, it's parody. No, he's just telling the truth. He knows this person. It's kind of like if somebody were to ask me about Bob Menendez. And that, again, when I saw my Cuban friend today, he was like, what do you think about Menendez? And I gave him the whole scoop as, you know, as a kid that grew up in Hudson County after my parents brought me from Brooklyn to Jersey. He was the mayor of Union City. Then he became a congressperson, and then he became a United States senator, and progressively taking on more power. He was chairman of the Hudson County Democrat organization, and he was very much a local politician that had his hands in everything, a real kingmaker, if you will, locally. And so people who didn't grow up in that area wouldn't know that about Bob Menendez and how he rolls and what type of support he had in the streets. I'm talking about, retired, some even current law enforcement at the time that were willing to get their hands dirty to help him out. And it was just interesting to see that growing up, because I'd never seen that type of machine politics before. So I know some people don't know about that. And Joe Brown is clearly describing stuff we don't know about in California. We can only suspect, but he's there and he knows and he's seen it. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable because, he's not wearing a red hat. He's not coming across as somebody saying, and I love me some Donald Trump. And I think he's not doing anything like that, right? I don't know if my Joe Brown impression was any good or not. But speaking of impressions, we're going to play a clip for you in a moment of Kamala Harris using a little bit of accent of her own, a little code switching to fit in with the audience in Atlanta. Puts on like a little bit of a southern drawl, kind of like Hillary Clinton did when she pulled the hot sauce out of her purse, as if she carries that all the time. And before I move on to that, I just want to put a pin in this Joe Brown stuff, that it just comes across to me as very sincere, and somebody who's really has a disdain for Kamala Harris, how bad she really is. And it confirms a lot of suspicions, I guess. Now, shifting ever so gently to the rally that Kamala Harris had today in Atlanta, where she was playing the Migos track, Walking Like I Talk It, Walking Like I Talk It. She decided to put on a little bit of her own urban southern drawl type of thing. Check this out.
And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
2024. Now, maybe she was just raising her voice and we're not giving her the benefit of the doubt. But listen, I get it. People do that. I mean, think of how many times you've spoken with someone that is maybe not a native English speaker, and all of a sudden you start speaking like them, and you're like, go to store. Do you go to the store? Right? Nobody really talks like that, right? So people, I think, code switch pretty often depending on who they're talking to, so that their audience will understand them. And I get that, right? This is my radio voice, which is pretty much my regular voice most of the time. But I don't always speak this loud. I'm loud by nature. My this old T-shirt that says I'm not yelling. I'm Puerto Rican. But the reality is, when I'm with my friends, I actually speak louder. And, I probably revert back to my high school years, calling them nicknames and using some of the slang from when I was a kid, because that's how code switching works. It just, your brain brings you back to places, so it's probably not uncommon if I'm hanging out with my buddies going, come on, dog. I might say something like that. But my point is, I'm not going to fault Harris for that. But I did think it was funny, right? It was funny. And all she needed was to bust out a little hot sauce, and then we would have really had it. It would have been on and popping. She could have played some Migos for that, too. Walking like I talk it, because now she's walking like she talks it. Anyway, if you didn't hear that, we'll play that for you on the way back. But keep it locked right here, folks. We're going to come right back. We're going to get to your calls. I see we got calls from our resident historian, Bill in Jefferson City, Missouri on KTTR. Let's see, Justin in Manchester, New Hampshire. Let's see, we got a few, right? We got a couple of Franks on the line tonight, more than one. Our buddy Paul is on the line. Our other buddy Paul. We got a few people. So we're going to get to you guys momentarily. Again, the number 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-Valdez. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. That's Valdez with an S. He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
Quavo and Offset and Takeoff, R.I.P. Takeoff. Those are the three members of the group known as the Migos that come out of the South in the ATL, the A. And she's making an appeal to some of the younger voters and listeners of hip hop and that know this music. And I listen to that. Matter of fact, just funny story. I was jet skiing. I spent the weekend in Puerto Rico, in Carolina, Puerto Rico, Isla Verde Beach, San Juan, and I was jet skiing yesterday morning, and I sent the video to my daughter, and she sent me back a Migos song about jet skiing. And I said, I hadn't heard of that song. And then my other daughter, who's younger than her, chimed in and said, it's not a Migos song. It's just Offset doing a duet with another rapper named 21 Savage. And anyway, I bring up the point to say this is very popular music, right? Maybe not for people older than Gen X who may not have been exposed to it. This group isn't that really that old, or I should say that new, either way. But my point is, Harris knows what she's doing. She's making an appeal to people who find this music popular, who frequent it, who appreciate it, and it's wise. And this is something Trump has been doing all along, right? Trump, as I like to call him, El Trompito, has a song because he's got rappers, right? And I don't think he funds these rappers. These are supporters of his from South Florida, Miami area, called Trump Latinos, who I need to probably invite to the program and do an interview with, because I met them at Mar-a-Lago, and they're an interesting bunch, right? I think they're like bikers, but they do hip-hop music, and it's rough. It's very rough music. But one of their tracks is called Trompito, Free Trompito. And I thought, what a great ode to the nickname that we've created for him on this program for the last several years, as well as the song that we heard yesterday, a little ode to our nickname for Kamala Harris, Que Mala Eres. So it's great to see that the show is having an impact out there in popular music and popular culture and politics and everything else. I'm really proud of that, and proud of all of you for listening and sharing. So anyway, that line I just said reminded me of a very old man. I don't know if he's still alive. Used to do a radio show, religious radio show, where he would end every call after he predicted the end of the world and, talked about his religious programming. And he would say, "Thank you for calling and sharing." His name was Harold Camping. If you're laughing, it's because you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, my bad. Anyway, I want to go to your calls. Let's see. Where do we go from here? Let's go to Justin, Manchester, New Hampshire, listening to richvaldez.com. Go right ahead.
Rich, thank you so much for taking my call. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure and honor to speak with you, Rich. And I always look forward to your impressions too. Awesome, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Rich, you might remember this. I'm not hearing anyone speak about this, and I'm not surprised because the media, never wants to say anything bad about the Democratic Party. But I'm really hoping that President Trump and J.D. Vance will start talking about this at the rallies. But if you might remember this, in 2020 during the primary debates when the Democrats were debating each other, Tulsi Gabbard was the only one who had the guts to stand up to Kamala Harris and expose her for who she really is. And then Kamala ended up suspending her campaign soon after that. Mm-hmm. But Tulsi Gabbard was referencing to her time as a prosecutor, and she knowingly let an innocent man sit on death row until a judge intervened and ordered his release. Someone who does that doesn't have a conscience. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about Kamala Harris, and I really hope President Trump...
And, Justin, I'm glad you brought that up because I saw the video of that guy. He's all over social media the last, 4 or 5 days, sharing his story, and I meant to send that to the guys in the control room so that we could play it on the air because it's a remarkable story. Not remarkable in a good way, but, definitely worthy of remarks. And sad, very sad that this happened to this guy. And it happens to a lot of people. And I don't think it happens because they're black or white or anything else. I think it happens when you have an overwhelmed system and a potentially a corrupt prosecutor in that case. That, being unscrupulous and lacking ethics because they want to win. And it's very unfortunate. But yes, you're right. And that guy's out there, and I'm sure he's going to be out there even more, not for Trump, but anti-her, because he wants the people, just like you're calling in, so the people will know and remember what happened. I'm sure he's going to do the same thing, and I would do the same thing if I knew somebody who lacked that type of integrity and was trying to position themselves for such a big post like president or anything else, even like a judge. I would make all the noise I could, be banging the pots and pans, saying, no, this guy is corrupt, he's fake, he's phony, he's fraud, I don't like him, he's no good. And, that's your free speech right. So, yeah, definitely good call on that one. Now, tell me this. What do you think happens, and not what you want to happen, but what you think actually happens? Do you think Harris is able to tighten the lead with Trump to the point where it's very competitive and mitigate the losses that they're afraid of because of Joe Biden's weakness? Or does it end up just being a bloodbath nonetheless for the Democrat Party with or without Harris's help?
Yeah, in my opinion, Rich, I think Trump is going to win big. I think it's going to be a massive win. I think it's going to be a historical win for Trump. I don't see Harris gaining any ground at all. I really don't. I mean, she has already proven that she does not give a damn about our country, and Trump has already proven that he cares very deeply about our country. Trump doesn't have anything to prove. He's already proven the 4 years that in his first term, that he loves this country. He will do anything. I mean, he'll even risk his life for our country. And Harris has already shown what her and the rest of the Democrats are all about. They don't care one bit.
Yeah, I think you're right, Justin. And I really hope you're right as well. I really do hope that Trump wins big and that this whole big switcheroo and changing candidates and all of that really doesn't make much of a difference in the long run. Justin in Manchester, New Hampshire, thanks for checking out the show on richvaldez.com. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you, sir. Hope to speak with you again soon. Let me see. Where do we go next? Less than a minute to go. It's probably unfair to put somebody on now and then have to rush you off the line. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until we take our pause and we come back, and we'll get to the rest of our calls. We got calls from St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Shout out to you guys. Ohio, WHIZ. Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Jefferson City, Missouri, KTTR. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Idaho, KBFI. Looking forward to speaking with you guys. And there's 2, maybe 3 open lines. So if you want to join the conversations, now's the time. Don't wait till the end that you won't get in. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't move a muscle. I'm Rich Valdez.
You have experience and skills in interviewing, or you wouldn't be on your program.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Yeah, I don't judge people by their politics and who they vote for or any of that stuff. And listen, I don't know Kamala. She seems like she's a nice person. I have nothing against her whatsoever. And like I said, I'm not political, but do I think that she is fit for the job? I do not, personally.
That is Dana White, the head of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, saying he's not political, but he thinks Kamala Harris is no good for the job. And Vice President Kamala Harris, her presidential campaign, and her allies are making a play to cut into Trump's base with white men. Now, that's a big part of Trump's base, so the campaign is seeking to build a very broad coalition ahead of November. The allied group known as White Dudes for Harris, has raised over $4 million during a call on Monday night. That was last night. It had 190,000 participants, including Jeff Bridges and Pete Buttigieg. Listen to this.
So much of politics is just vibes. Having said that, the vibes right now are incredible.
I was brought to the party not so much as being white, and I certainly am, but because I'm a dude. I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
The idea that men can gather to talk about how we feel. Interesting, powerful concept.
What a variety of whiteness we have here. It's like a rainbow of beige.
Oh, my goodness. It's a rainbow of beige. It's a rainbow of white. Can these people get any more ridiculous? I want to bring it to some white men. Hopefully we have some white men on the phone. Let's go to Zanesville, Ohio, WHIZ. Paul, are you a white man?
Yes, sir, I am.
Perfect. You're an expert.
Funny.
It was a rainbow of beige, a rainbow of whiteness.
Yes, that's crazy. You know, I don't think they're speaking for the majority of the white man. I really don't. But you know, I what I wanted to say was I remember Kathy Johnson, who used to be the producer for
here.
the Jim Bohannon show. Yeah, and I had a southern drawl to my voice. I'd never seen it, but she told me, you know, she asked me one time, she said, now, where is Zanesville, Ohio, other than Ohio? She said, well, you sound like you're from the South, and I've never been to the South, Rich. But anyway.
No, you know what? You sound like you're from Ohio.
Yeah, exactly.
The southern part of Ohio.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, southeastern Ohio.
See?
So, but anyway, this Kamala Harris. Now, are people, I want to ask you and the Americans out there, is Kamala Harris going to follow Joe Biden's policy? Because if she's going to, y'all think about that, number one, you know, because he's failure, you know, number one. Now, she also was trying to change her, like, you know, saying, I'm from the South, you know, this and that, or using that voice, you know what I was saying. It's not appealing to anybody at all. I mean, I want to hear her address Israel. I want to hear her address the Ukraine. You know, I want to hear her address things that are important to us and not run around like some cackling idiot that she is. I will not vote for that woman. You couldn't drag me to vote for that woman, just like I wouldn't vote for Biden again, you know. But I don't understand why some people are switching over. Now, I understand the woke crowd, you know. I'm seeing it in, you know, I've seen it in the Olympics. And, you know, it just seems downright crazy to me that you would even change your vote to a Kamala Harris. You know,
I think you're spot on. Yeah, well, you're right. And that is the question that we have to ask. Will she carry on Biden's policy? She has no choice. She is a three-legged sack racing partner of Joe Biden's. They have been attached at the hip since 2020 or whatever, 2019 when they ran. And how could she at this point try and say, look, I'm not the borders are, but I'm doing better on the immigration issue than Trump is, right? She's digging a huge hole for herself, at least my opinion, right? And my opinion is this. I shared it with my Cuban friend today. I was telling him, because he was, again, saying the same as you. Why is she picking up steam? First of all, she's not really picking up steam, in my opinion. She's not. What's happening here is, you know, in politics, there's a term, they call it astroturf, right? There's grassroots, which is real and organic, and then there's astroturf, things that are made to look real. And this is astroturf politics. She does not have a base of support. She doesn't. She doesn't have appeal. She's not a popular person. She's never been an incredible fundraiser. They've passed on her. She ran for president. They did not launch the campaign well, and she was dead in the water. So that doesn't mean that she can't run again and do better. Everybody has a chance to improve. But the bottom line for her is I don't think she does get any better. I think the problem with Kamala Harris, again, is Joe Biden. The fact that everything that he's done, she's been there saying, we did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. She's actively been an active participant in everything Joe Biden has done, including being the point person from the White House on the border. She says it was just to find out the root cause of the issue in the Northern Triangle. And others, critics, myself and others, will say, no, you knew full well what was going on at the border because you were in charge and you did nothing. So ultimately, she's got nowhere to go, in my opinion. She just really doesn't. She doesn't have a shot at, in my opinion, of not. I'm not saying she can't win. I'm saying she doesn't have a shot at trying to distance herself so radically from Biden because you just can't, right? She's on the record. Paul, thank you, my brother, for the call. I appreciate it. And you're right. These white guys I think they're out of their mind. Jeff Bridges and the rest of them with their rainbow of beigeness, their rainbow of whiteness. I don't think it works out. Anyway, thanks, Paul. Big shout out to WHIZ. I want to continue here. Let me see. Where do we go? Jim, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Go right ahead.
Hey, I'm a 72-year-old white guy in Pittsburgh.
All right, we got another one.
Another one.
Were you on the call with Kamala Harris?
Hell no. I shouldn't say the word. No, you have to be a complete moron to vote for her. Really, seriously. Now, having said that, that's the Hollywood elites out there. I don't care what Jeff Bridges thinks. He's not a Republican. He's supposed to be conservative. He's a rhino. I saw that video that one guy said, dudes for Harris. It was laughable.
Yeah, it really was. It almost seemed like a parody.
It did. Actually, it was riveting, the testimony today before Congress. I watched it. Cruz
for the Secret Service director?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Robert Rowe, they testified. They grilled him, actually. Cruz and Josh Hawley. Cruz said to him.
And Rand Paul.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Rand Paul, too. I missed his testimony. But Cruz told him to shut up. He goes, answer the question. He says, did or did you not meet with the Secret Service people before the meeting? Yes, we did. Well, you realize that that's contradicted to testimony. Then he said, what's the contingent of Secret Service compared to with Trump to President Biden? He goes, it's the same. He goes, really? Well, no, Secret Service. He goes, shut up, answer the damn question. He told the guy to shut up, and then Hawling kept saying, was the guy fired and made the decision? They're lying through their teeth.
Yeah, they're definitely stonewalling. I think you're right, Jim. They're in damage control. They want to show face, but they don't want to answer any questions. So they could say, look, when we were asked to appear before Congress, we were there. We're looking for a resolution to this as much as anybody else. And we can definitely have a conversation about that later. But right now, I have to get back to you on that. Right? That's what they're going to do. And they're just going to play this game until they can't play it anymore, which in the government, they'll quickly, figure out a way to classify it and then have to wait till Trump is in office, God willing, to declassify it so that nobody knows anything the wiser. It's crazy the way they're playing this game, but this is what they're doing. Jim, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm going to take a quick pause right here, coming right back with the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Voted best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez.
So earlier we were talking with Sheri Few from USPIE about this ongoing situation in California where they are trying to strengthen the laws on child trafficking, on child prostitution. And you've got Democrats that are actively pushing back on it to advance an agenda where they no longer lock up the people that you and I would call pedophiles, and others would call minor attracted persons. And it's absolutely disappointing in my best estimation. But I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's go to Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Walter, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Good evening. Thanks again for the call and to your kind screener.
Thank you.
I know you detest. Yes, you're welcome. I know you detest pedophiles, and as you spoke with the guest tonight earlier about the LGBTQ, whatever those letters are, defending them. Even the criminals in prisons hate this basura. Anyway, some of them get away with it from now. But, Rich, let's not forget Sodom and Gomorrah, where God himself stepped in, and he certainly will step in again. So we can relax because true justice is coming, and they'll certainly get theirs, all of them.
As will everyone, right? And, Walter, you bring up a good point. In Jersey, where I live now, I can tell you that there is a special jail just for sex offenders, any sex offender, because of what you're describing, right? You're saying that they don't like them in jail. It's true. They hurt them and sometimes sexually assault them to give them like a little payback. And they're in such danger, at least in New Jersey, they've decided to protect them yet again, and they have their own jail so that they can be with one another in perfect harmony and be safe from someone that may take exception to the type of crime that they committed. And I just think that's, again, I'm not saying put them in general population, let these guys kill them all. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I just think it's fascinating of all the people you could protect, and these are the ones that, that are being protected. It's just interesting the way life works out sometimes. Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Thank you for the call, my brother. I appreciate it. Let's go to Evergreen, Montana, KOFI, and check in with Frank. Frank, go right ahead, sir.
Hi, Rich. I wanted to say discrimination is not a bad word. It actually is what made America great. You go into the Army, they have to discriminate a bunch of factors. Your health.
No flat feet, if you got bad vision, all that, right?
Yes, the whole 9 yards. And to be a good person in the airport system and all of our infrastructure, we need mentally acute, sober people who are
like Joe Biden
to excellence. No, not like him. But my God, but no, we don't need people like Kamala, who's a practice at the art of deception because she's an attorney. I mean, God, she couldn't. You can't trust people like that. Yeah, I hate to say that about attorneys, but no, they're the wrong people for leaders. They're trained to lie.
Yeah, I can't speak for all attorneys, but I can tell you my opinion on Kamala Harris, and I think you're spot on with that. And you're right. I think Kamala Harris is expert in that world, and I don't see any change coming where she's suddenly going to be very honest. Frank in Evergreen, Montana, KOFI, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. We need to be more discriminating with who we choose for public office. That makes sense to me. All right, let me see. I take my pause here. I come back with the speed round. We go to Bill and let's see, Ron and Pat and Paul, and 833-482-5337 is the number. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
My hands across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, I am back. I made it through another show. I was tired today. Not normally tired at this time. Usually I'm pretty ready, filled with caffeine to the brim. But I was tired because, like I said, I spent the weekend in Puerto Rico, came back yesterday, and went, a couple hours of show prep and went straight to work. And I guess I was still flying high from the fun I had, the adrenaline. But, that's wearing off. And I am tired. So thanks for putting up with me. Let's go to the phones. Bill, our resident historian, Jefferson City, Missouri, KTTR. Quickly, go right ahead.
Yes, Joe Biden had and indirectly stiffed one of my favorite judges from Missouri, Clarence Thomas, the other day. And he also had a recipe for packing the Supreme Court, just as FDR wanted to do long, long ago. So I'm a fan of Clarence Thomas, and I hope he sticks right in there because he walked the streets in Jefferson City, and he was brought here by another Yale graduate, the youngest attorney general in Missouri, John Danforth. So what do you think of that?
I love that you always have something very valuable to contribute. Bill in Jefferson City, our unofficial resident historian here on Rich Valdez, America at Night. And thank you for that. And listen, I'm all for you. I love Clarence Thomas. I love me some Sam Alito. I love Antonin Scalia. God bless him. Just a lot of greats there. Anyway, thank you, Bill. I appreciate you, brother. Shout out to KTTR. Let's see. Ron Sanadome. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Iowa, KMA. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's Shenandoah. Remember the Everly Brothers, Little Susie, and all that?
Yeah, I know Shenandoah. Just it was spelled differently.
Here's what I'd like to say real quick.
Yeah.
Here's what I'd like to say real quick, Rich. During the Biden administration, which is just about over with, they'll add about $4 trillion to the national debt. During Trump's administration, they added $8 trillion to the national debt. Double. Numbers don't lie.
No, but neither does COVID. And that's really the issue, right? And I think it's a little exaggerated. I think it was more like 2 and 2 the last time I looked, or 2 and 4, because I think the total number was 6, and then another 2 with the American Rescue Plan. So I don't know if I agree with those numbers off the bat. But either way, the number, the spending number, if you go up to where Trump allowed Dr. Fauci to say we need to shut down everything and everybody's got to stay home. We need 15 days to flatten the curve. That took 2 years. If we go up to that point, spending wasn't as drastic as it ended up being, right? Because they had to fast track the production of Operation Warp Speed and the production of the vaccine and so many things. Hospital ships using the, I forget which act that is, where they take over the factories to build these ventilators. I mean, there's so many things that needed to be done, or at the time seemed like they needed to be done. And ultimately, that's where it ends up. So, yeah, the numbers don't lie, but neither do the rest of the facts. And the reality is, had we not had that, it was still the most robust economy that I've seen since the Reagan days. And I'm happy to do that again. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate your thoughts on that. Let me see. The music is playing with Pat and Paul still on hold. Gentlemen, I apologize. Tried to get to as many calls as I could in the speed round. I owe you both a call. Definitely going to connect with you guys tomorrow, 833-4-VALDEZ. And folks, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. Hasta la próxima. Until tomorrow, I am Rich Valdez.